Yeah, I actually, when I first met Marty, we had a video conference, and he had delivered to him in his office the pair of the 700s, and I thought it was cool because I had actually just gotten them a few days before he did. And I also did the same video. I was at a gym with my kids the other day, and it was just complete noise. And I put on the headphones, and the sound went away, and I was like, I got to record this. And I actually did a similar test that he did. I have it on my laptop. I'd show it to you guys, but I think we've already heard enough about how great Bose is. I look forward to them possibly sponsoring our podcast, and maybe we will do the podcast by sending all of our subjects, will be our IT leaders, CIOs from hotels. We'll send them a pair of 700s. They can do the podcast with the 700s on and see how that comes out. We'll do it from noisy locations, all sponsored by Bose. Who wants to see that? Round of applause. Very good. All right, so I know you guys are probably getting hungry, and I want to make this quick, but if you really got to go to the restroom, now would be a good time to go. Just kidding. The doors are actually locked, so you can't leave. Every one of our meetings, it's really important that we share with you what we're doing in our working groups. Our work groups are the heart of HTNG. It's where our members get the most value. Yes, coming here and meeting face-to-face and listening to people talk about how great they are and how smart they are is good. But really listening to smart people and debating things in workgroup calls is where you receive the most value. We've been working for the last year or so with a group of members on evangelizing and the convergence of AV and IT, putting more audiovisual equipment on the network. So I don't know if you saw did you see the little graphic animation? I'm kind of proud of this thing, so I just want to make sure that, I actually made that in Blender. Anybody know what Blender is? It's kind of fun. It took me like all day to do it, but if you want to learn how to do it, there's, of course, all the information you need on YouTube. So thanks, Patrick. I told you guys, well, the doors are locked, sorry. This was our group. We met this summer in Park City, Deer Valley, and we had a bunch of work group meetings going on there. We all came together outside during lunch, and I flew my drone up and took a picture of the great group of individuals that we have meeting together to really solve some of the industry's great problems. So I just wanted to highlight that. Within those working groups, as I mentioned in the opening, we've organized these strategic pillars that kind of oversee the work groups and ensure that the work groups are really serving a mission. And one of these missions is what we've identified as the priorities for us to solve. So leave that up there for a second. These are on our website. I don't need to read them. And we're possibly going to be adding a new mission in 2020, in the next month or two, focused on marketing and commercial technologies. So that's clearly an area where a lot of you are focused, and our industry has focused a lot of their efforts is on the commercialization of their products, and the technologies that are used to do so are necessary, and the integration of those is very critical. So we're going to be working with some associations that are already working with chief marketing officers and the like in hospitality. These are some of the work groups that we have, and namely the one on here that I'm going to be talking about mostly is the audiovisual work group. So as you can see, we have 15 to 20 going on at any time. We're developing some new ones. Express PMS integrations is all about driving more efficient APIs and integrations with that core system, the property management system. We have a guest room entertainment work group that Patrick is facilitating. It'll include a lot of the individuals that were on the previous panel. And personalization is something that we're all really trying to strive for, and it requires better integration of all the technologies and solutions to make that happen. So, what is our goal with this work group particularly? We are really trying to make spaces more versatile, okay? We want to drive flexibility, efficiency, and aesthetics by placing more of the gear onto that IP network. Meetings and events are about an experience. Hopefully you all are having a good one here today up until this point when I came on stage, but it'll be over shortly. We need to reimagine the spaces that we deliver these meetings. They can be other parts of the venue. It doesn't always have to be, these rooms. It must be flexible, allow for fast turns so that we can get seats off, chairs off the stage quickly and change the lighting and change the configuration and do all of those things. And we need to be creative. Some of the experts that are working on this work group, one of them is a vice president from PSAV. I'm sure many of you know PSAV. They provide a lot of the services for meetings and events in hotels in the United States, and they have kind of grown their organization through acquisition around the world. And they are really encouraging, and they recognize the importance of this flexibility. And in the United States, a lot of the venues really try to blow it out of the park, and really do something unique. Some other regions are a little more conservative. But the trends that have usually started out of the United States do eventually, you will find in other regions around the world. So it's good to observe what's happening there. And this is a great event that really showcases, I think, a great experience, great audiovisual, great sound, great visuals, with the exception of the people that sometimes grace the stage. Forgive me. So the hypothesis is the meeting space would be more flexible and more easily connected to the other areas of the venue and less cluttered if the AV equipment was able to run on the IP network. A lot of investment being made in those IP networks. Leverage it with every piece of equipment that you can. Dedicated meeting spaces are really a blank canvas. This room is just walls and some lights, but you can see all the stuff they had to bring in here to add, making other public spaces multifunction so they can offer a variety of experiences is also one of the goals that we're striving for. Mixing portable and built-in equipment. If that built-in stuff is on the IP network, we can mix that more easily. And there's also the challenge of mixed versus in-house versus third-party providers. So, we have the guys who are doing a great job running this event event from the back room, but there's probably somebody who's in this hotel who also is managing some of the smaller things, and they have to work together. They have to share the network resources. So some of the challenges are the portability of the equipment, sometimes high bandwidth consumption. Some of you may be videoing right now, hopefully not, and streaming it. So this hotel does have great bandwidth, but not everyone does. Managing the security of the content being shared, the security of the devices on the network, following standards, and the availability of standards, identifying which standards to follow. Those are some of the other challenges. And the network support models are not suitable for live event criticality. So it is quite critical, the network service and the Wi-Fi that you provide to guests, but a little bit of latency on their Netflix stream is not as critical as latency if we were simul-broadcasting, some of the audio and video of a presentation out to a large audience. So there are definitely different requirements there on the network. So the bottom line is that the IT isn't really designed for AV, and the AV OEMs aren't really designing for IT. And so we're trying to work together to make that happen. And what needs to happen? We need to update network design standards. We published some design standards some years ago. We've taken those and we're updating those now. Increasing the recommendation for backplane throughput so you can have uncompressed 4K video, the redundancy necessary to do that, having uninterruptible power supplies so you don't have these systems go down, which would maybe be a good thing right now, but in most cases you probably wouldn't want to have that happen. PoE wire jacks everywhere. Being able to plug things in and get power. There's so many things you can power now off of that, over the Ethernet cables. Digital electricity and all those things are becoming a trend that we see growing in the future. And then, of course, software-defined networks, SDN, really brings that versatility that drives the value. We need more standards in AV technology, the security, the authentication, the payload transport. There's a lot of available standards out there, and a lot of the OEMs for AV equipment are either have their own or there are a disparate number of solutions that are or standards that are selected. Also, looking at the network support model, we need to have last minute, be able to be responsive for last minute needs, and making sure that you have the necessary resources to mitigate the potential outages and really reduce liability. There's a lot of money at stake here. A lot of money at stake in these events, and canceling them or having an issue is very costly for everyone. As many of you know, like with Mobile World Congress being canceled yesterday, how costly that's going to be. Barcelona is going to be struggling. So we at HTNG tried to bring people to work together. We want to, some of the things that we're working on is analyzing the AV manufacturers. We've put together a survey, and we're going to distribute the survey through our partners at Avixa. Avixa is very supportive of this effort, and they've been joining our working groups and looking and reviewing our documents and our white paper. And so we're going to be sending out the survey to OEMs, asking them what are the different standards that they have currently in place or on their future roadmap. Everything from the audio transport, video transport, communication, command control, all the different standards and options that they have to embed in their equipment. We want to identify the gaps and how we can incorporate those to make sure that they can run on the enterprise IT networks. So at the completion of that, we'll complete and make a recommendation to AV manufacturer on the standards that are most compatible with hotel infrastructure and what we're recommending for hotels, and they should, if they want to be in hotels and be permanent fixtures in them, how they can follow that. And then any necessary updates to our design guides that we published some time ago to make sure that's communicated to the hotel. So it's really working with the AV OEMs and the hotel developers to make sure that we're working in conjunction so that we're designing for each other. So what if we do nothing? Well, the cost of network infrastructure increases. There's a redundant cabling and redundant equipment because you have a lot of built-in stuff or some built-in stuff, and you have to bring in more stuff on top of it, and you have to have separate networks because it's third-party and some internal and so forth. You have multiple service providers. You've got to pay for somebody on site for the small stuff and bring in more people for the big stuff and different networks. It just adds so much more complexity and therefore cost. And really, if we do nothing, then the venue owners will just invest in a minimal standard to provide a minimal experience. And we all attend a lot of events, right? I know you guys are like professional event goers or producers, and you don't want a basic experience. You want something better. So what are the possibilities if we do better? Well, content transport. We've talked a lot about some of the cool things that are being done where, people can watch. If you have a ballroom or an event of 1,000 people, people can have live streaming video on their personal devices rather than staring up at a screen and seeing a video. They can actually see it right there in front of them. Maybe some of you have been to some of the events where they have multiple stages all in the same large area, and you can switch your audio channel. You're wearing a headset, and you can switch that channel to listen to the different presentations that are ongoing. Command and control. So being able to control these devices, the projectors and the audio, and being able to identify potential issues, mitigate problems, tune them by walking around the room, all of those things. Some of that's available today in the kits that get brought in, but wouldn't it be great if you could be that flexible without having to bring in a lot of equipment? Location-based services. A lot of infrastructure is being placed into hotels these days to track valuable assets. One of the most valuable assets are the people and the resources, and helping to identify them when they're in a situation of need, when they need attention, if they're in a moment of distress. So these location-based service networks, the networks that are being leveraged for location-based services, hotels want to make them available for multiple purposes. And one of them could be tracking, $10,000 video switchers and mixing boards and things like that, and making sure that we know which room they got moved into. And then, production management. I don't need to go into that too much, and I know we're running out of time. So we're really trying to identify what's the standard direction. Many of you who are in the AV business probably know EtherSound, CobraNet, BlueLink. I researched a lot of this stuff. The chairs of the work group were going to be here to give this presentation, but they unfortunately couldn't come. One's in Mexico and the other one's stuck doing events in the United States, so they asked me to do this. So I did a lot of research, and I found, obviously Dante is very prolific, but we have AES-67, Livewire, and QLAN, and Ravinia. These things are fairly foreign to hotel IT, and we need to communicate the value of these standards and protocols. We need to understand how the networks can be compatible with them. So that's what we're trying to do, and identify what is the best standard, what is the direction that we need to be moving the hotel infrastructure. So if you're interested in participating in this, we have an event coming up in a couple of months called HT Next. This will be in Scottsdale, Arizona. You're welcome to come over. If you're a member of HTNG, you can come for Wednesday and Thursday, where we have a bunch of work groups that will be taking place. The AV work group, as you can see, will be at 9:45 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So if you have any questions about that event, or this work group, or any others, please see me or Patrick, and we'll be happy to share that with you. So with that, I'm right on time, thereabouts. And we have lunch break. If I can see the slide for the lunchtime, because I know, so we have lunch from now until 1400. However, at 13:15, Samsung's going to be back in here, and you heard Pietro talking about some of the new stuff that they're doing. And I think, Pietro, are you here? I think he's going to be revealing some of that stuff to some people in here. So if you're interested in learning about that, we're going to have some of that going on in here at 13:15. So thank you all for putting up with me. Sorry that the doors had to be locked to keep you in. Hopefully that was somewhat educational. And we will see all of you back here at 1400. Enjoy your lunch.